Yeah.
Fair, Iowa fair.
Yeah, we're just going to start the show talking about the Iowa Fair. And one thing you learn in politics:
Should.
don't put on a funny hat, and do not eat a corn dog on camera.
But
True.
please come to
Regardless,
the fair this year. Full disclosure, that's one of my clients, so please
the,
come.
the fair is one of your clients.
Yeah,
Since
Can
when?
I
good people.
can I be?
Since
Can you hook
since
up with a
since
Republican consultant for
since
this? I would love
since
that.
Hogan, we are bipartisan firms. I have more
Hima,
Republican friends than you
since
have, maybe.
since when has the Iowa State Fair been one of your clients?
For maybe like 5 or 6 years.
Oh my goodness,
You guys should come.
this changes everything. I've been trying to get my son to the Iowa Fair forever.
Yeah, please come.
Ladies and gentlemen, there are other states that think they have the best state fair in America. They're wrong. There's only one, accept no invitation. The Iowa State Fair is the greatest. You should.
I went to the Minnesota State Fair last year just for
That's
recon.
second best. It's
Yeah,
second
awesome.
best. Iowa's second best. I mean, Minnesota's second best, but Iowa is hands down the best fair in America. And I've got hilarious stories about going to Iowa State Fair with presidential candidates. It's, of course, where Mitt Romney said corporations are people too, my friend.
My friend.
But it's
Hogan's going to come with me this year.
But it's also where I got a helicopter ride with Donald J. Trump, who gave about 20 kids helicopter ride. And
It was Hyman's
anyway,
idea.
Yeah, it was Hyman's idea. Welcome to the morning meeting, ladies and gentlemen. Hyman Moore is here. Hogan Gidley's here. H&H, we call this episode. Like a great New York bagel, it's better toasted. Thank you for being here. In a moment, we'll get to your questions and comments. If you're here on the platform, would like to get on the conversation, please do. We're going to talk a lot about Iran today. No surprise. There's some late-breaking developments there, and a little bit of politics as well with the president traveling domestically. I'll run through the daybook in a moment, and then, of course, we'll have a conversation, and then we'll love to hear from you. If you've never raised your hand before, perhaps consider raising your hand today to be part of the conversation. All voices under one roof. As I always say, if I get emails every day from members of the community. Why don't you talk more about this? Why did you let Jaime off the hook on that? Hogan has no idea what he's talking about on this. Just raise your hand. That's the beauty of this.
No one ever.
You don't. That's a hypothetical, Hogan. No one would ever say that. Yeah, it's a hypothetical. But my point is, you don't need to send me an email the day after the show saying, I can't believe that happened. Just raise your hand and say, Jaime, I want to take issue with your support of the Iowa State Fair, when we all know that the Nebraska State Fair is better. They have those Ruskas. What are those things called? I don't remember. All right, quick word from a sponsor, and then to your questions. Then to the daybook, rather. CozyEarth.com. Promo code morning gets you 20% off. It's getting warm. Put your bubble cuddle blanket away. The dog will still use it, but you don't need it out. But you do need to, Runza, thank you. You do need to switch up your sheets, your towels, maybe get some new t-shirts so you're not wearing the t-shirt that, like Jerry Seinfeld, you've grown an odd attachment to. Freshen up everything in your life. Go to CozyEarth.com. Use the promo code morning for 20% off everything on the site. Cozy Earth socks we're pushing this week because the essential socks change your life. Four different styles, calf, quarter, show, each pair crafted with care to fit seamlessly into your routine. I recommend just buy 2 pairs of the socks, and you'll see you'll probably do what I've begun to do, which is to replace all my socks with Cozy Earth socks. Use the promo code morning for 20% off at CozyEarth.com. Mention in the post-purchase survey you heard about Cozy Earth from a dog who loves his bubble cuddle blanket. Thank you for that, folks. And here we go. The president today is going to 2 great states, the great state of Ohio and the great state of Kentucky. And he'll be accompanied by a travel pool that includes Fox, the Daily Mail, and Breitbart, amongst others, Bloomberg. He is executive time at this hour, so he's watching the show. Hello, Mr. President. Departs the White House sometime this morning. Doesn't say on the schedule when he's leaving. 2:30, he participates in a visit at Thermo Fisher Scientific. 3:05, he participates in a local TV interview. 4 o'clock, does a podcast interview. Is that for you, for your podcast?
It isn't.
It isn't? Okay. We'll see who that's with. 4:25, he delivers remarks, and this is in the district of Mr. Massey. Hogan, is Mr. Massey going to win his primary?
I don't know the polling, but I know he's quite disliked in a lot of sectors in Washington. I don't know how that translates to Kentucky.
Yeah. Jaime, it seems like the White House must think he's going to lose because the president's appearing with his endorsed opponent. Did you say you asked the favorite or the underdog in the primary coming up in a few months?
It seems to be an underdog now, but it seems like the president's going to happen over the edge.
Yeah. I'd be curious to see what the
Not
president
just
talks
the
about.
president.
Yeah,
Yes.
the whole team. The whole team.
Yeah.
We'll see. Is the House leadership for Massey? Do they have to be for him because he's an incumbent?
I don't speak on behalf of the House leadership, so I don't know.
But do you know, I know you don't speak for them, but do you know Hogan? Like publicly, where's the speaker? Is he for his incumbent?
Publicly, I don't know if he's even made a comment about Massey. I think there's a lot of public statements that range from bless his heart to I wish he'd actually vote for Republican legislation every once in a while, but that's it.
But it seems like the speaker, Jaime, would be in a tougher position than the president because the president can do whatever he wants, but the speaker's supposed to support incumbents.
Yeah, typically, I mean, that's what the Democrats are doing right now.
Yeah.
But typically that's what happens.
Yeah. Michael, look up. I meant to look this up earlier. Michael, look up. Just chime in when you find it. It's just, what is the speaker's position on that race? Don't know what the vice president's doing today. Be curious to see how much live coverage the president gets out there. And of course, he could talk about Massey, could talk about the economy, could talk about Iran, and of course, he could talk about the Save America Act. We'll see where he puts his focus. House Republicans on their final day in Doral, Florida, at their policy meeting yesterday. James Blair told them, don't talk about deporting everyone, talk about deporting illegal people who violent. Bill today. I don't know that we'll get to it today, but this fascinating politics. This housing bill is substantive and serious. It's one of the most important housing pieces of legislation in a while. It's very good. For all the policy people tell me it's good. It's in theory got bipartisan support, but there's a question of whether Democrats are going to give Donald Trump a huge political win on a signature issue for the country, and whether the House will accept the Senate bill. So lots going on there. The UN today is taking up a resolution sponsored by the Gulf Cooperation Council, demanding that Iran stop attacking its Arab neighbors. There's some wispy reporting out there that these Gulf states and Saudi Arabia may join a coalition of the willing against Iran. I haven't confirmed that, but I've seen that reported places. People are talking about that possibility. BlackRock and Semaphore have hosting a summit on American infrastructure. A lot of senators will be there, including Cortez Mastro, Daines McCormick, Sean Duffy will be there, Secretary Burgum, and Sam Altman will be there. Consumer Price Index came out at 830. Now, this number is before the war started, so it's about unchanged. Inflation's about the same. So if you're trying to stagflation, the inflation part, it was under control last month, but presumably inflation, unless this war ends today, will be up. So I'm not sure anybody much cares about the number, but it was basically static. Josh Shapiro, 11:15, is visiting a manufacturing housing community in Berks County to meet with residents who would benefit from the governor's proposed housing reform measures included in his budget address last month. All right, we're going to talk a lot about the president today and how he's dealing with various conflicts that he's involved in. And of course, the main ones involve Iran. Surprised at how little coverage there has been overnight on all the developments that took place, that have taken place just in like the last 12 hours in Iran and in the region. Just for example, heard from our folks in Tel Aviv that they were called to go down to the bunkers, the shelters more than they have since the war started. So Iran is not acting like they're a defeated power, hitting a U.S. asset in Iraq, hitting Tel Aviv, or trying to hit Tel Aviv, no reported casualties, at least so far, hitting civilian targets in the Gulf states, hitting ships in the Strait of Hormuz, including setting a Thai ship on fire, and some of the crew are missing. Even though there are reports that the new Ayatollah, the new supreme leader, is perhaps injured, even though America and Israel continues to pummel Iran, Iran is not behaving like it's a defeated power, to say the least. And the Israelis this morning said that they're going to continue this fight. Here's a statement, 125, please. This is from the official at the Defense Ministry in Israel. 125, please. Defense Minister Israel Katz said this: the surviving Iranian leadership is fleeing like rats into tunnels, just like the Hamas leadership in Gaza. From there, they give orders to fire on civilians and children in Israel and across the region. The hospital morgues in Iran are filled with many thousands members of the Revolutionary Guard and the besieged. The operation led by President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu will continue without any time limit until we achieve all objectives and win the campaign. So we're going to talk about the sub-issue in a moment, guys, of oil and the Strait of Hormuz, which I think is the big issue. But just in terms of the war overall, Haima, what do you make of the fact that the Iranians do not seem defeated at all as compared to the portrait painted by the U.S. and Israel?
Yeah, I mean, I'm shocked and surprised. I was having a conversation with some friends at dinner last night, and I go, why haven't we been able to beat the Iranian military back a little bit more? Why do they still have so many assets? Why are they able to still be so active, particularly in the region? And so what are we going to do to bat that back? I'm not sure. And so I'm a little shocked by it. I'm a little annoyed by it. And I think if the president and Netanyahu want to be more successful, they've got to figure out a way to tie that down a little bit more. We've now been there for 11 and a half days. And if we are going to spend the next 2 or 3 weeks fighting a war, there've got to be some clear daily, I think, deposits that are made that people see. So what are we trying to accomplish? Are we trying to ensure that Iran is not able to rebuild this capacity? Yes. But firstly, we've got to make sure that the capacity they have right now is not going to be utilized against us and our allies. And I think that's where we are. And I think people have some questions about why they haven't done a little bit more to bat that back.
Hogan, are you surprised that the Iran strikes different types of devices, drones and missiles? Are you surprised at their capability this many days in?
I guess I'm surprised at two things. One is that they actually have the capability.
Yeah.
But I'm also surprised that no one thought they didn't have the capability. I mean, they've been allowed unchecked for decades with handshake deals with former presidents on the right and the left, with the promise they would not do these types of things. It was all a lie. So I'm not surprised they do have such a massive arsenal. You do get to see kind of some of their failings in that they're just firing off rockets to all kinds of places because they don't really know rhyme or reason. But at some point, when you hear that their Navy's destroyed, when you hear their ballistic missile capability is greatly destroyed as well, you wonder what else is there. And I think what you're seeing are some of the last gasps of what they have. The question moving forward is, what are we going to do to prevent those last gasps from not only just being successful, but from being allowed to grow more tentacles in the future? Yeah. And if they continue on as your tweet just showed, at least for some time period, whether it be a week, a month, whatever, I think they can do a pretty good job preventing them from ever doing this type of stuff again. But this is the moment, I think, to really, really, really crush the head of the snake here.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Mark, who's commanding their military?
I don't think we know. I mean, there are reports that they put in place a chain of command, kind of a chain of succession to allow there to continue to be command and control. But again, I'm trying to find this sentence from I can't remember. I think it's from a Middle East analyst. They have command and control. I mean, they just do. Yeah. I don't know who it is. I don't think we know who it is, but they've got it. They clearly have command and control. Here's a sentence I was looking for. Iran, this is from I think a New York Times story. Quote: Iran is not acting like a decapitated regime.
True.
They're not acting that way, and they could.
But they don't have a choice, right?
Well, but I mean, you could imagine not just defections. You could just imagine chaos. But and I'm sure it's not supremely orderly, but it is. They just in the last 12 hours they've done a bunch of stuff, and the central focus now is two related issues: a price of oil, right, and the impact on the world economy of the cutoff of oil, and the Strait of Hormuz. And the president last night kind of drew a red line there, and he said, "Don't you dare start putting mines in there." But the Iranians have drawn, I would consider, a bolder and sharper red line, which is we control that and you're not coming in. And the challenge is, this is for the United States and any coalition of the willing the president wants to build, is this is asymmetrical. They need to destroy one ship
Yeah.
And they win. The U.S. has to, and whoever works with the U.S. has to defend every ship. And so far, we failed. The U.S., I'm told, is putting a plan together. Iran, there's a CNBC headline. There's CNBC. They're stopping oil from going to anywhere, except they are sending oil through the Strait of Hormuz to China, their patron.
Yeah.
So China's getting not all the oil they need, but some of it. The U.S. So there's going to be a release from the petroleum reserve. I don't know if the U.S. is going to be included in this, but the Europeans are going to release some. That's a Band-Aid, folks. That is not a cure. Here's the headline from the Journal. IEA proposes largest ever oil release from strategic reserves. The U.S. is trying to increase domestic consumption, domestic production to take some of the edge off here. Here's a headline from Reuters exclusive. Chevron, Shell closing in on first big oil production deals in Venezuela. So some more oil from the U.S., some more oil from European reserves, some more oil maybe from Venezuela. But this is not a solution. People in the administration will tell you there needs to be more. And now we have this showdown over the Strait of Hormuz. And yesterday, the Secretary of Energy mistakenly said a ship had been escorted through. Hasn't happened. So, Hogan, are we headed towards the president and shifting military focus to say we are going to control the Strait of Hormuz? Is that what's going to happen? Or is he going to back down and not open it up? Because it seems to me it's binary now after the back and forth. Either the United States, maybe with some coalition partners, are going to control the strait, or we're not, and open it back up, or we're not. That ships are going to be going through safely, or they're not. And then, of course, we could take, what's the name of that island? I can never remember the name of that thing, where all the oil go through. So maybe take Karg as well. So those are maybe two things. Are we going to control the strait? Are we going to control Karg? Yes or no?
Well, Karg, you'd need to put boots on the ground, I believe, to control.
All right, leave Karg. I shouldn't have brought up Karg yet. Just the strait. It's binary. Is the president going to devote the resources to saying you're gonna not put any mines in there? He basically said we're going to do all but throw not nuclear weapons on you if you do it. He's drawn a line, but so have the Iranians. So what's going to, yes or no, binary? Will, in the next few days or week, will the United States control the Strait of Hormuz or not?
Do I need to answer this yes or no?
You do.
Okay.
Yes or no?
Can I say something and then get the yes?
No, you just got to say yes or no. Yes or no.
I believe is yes.
All right, that's very dramatic. Jaime, what do you think?
I think yes, and I think we may have to.
But if we try to, and they get one ship with a drone, we're screwed.
This was always the risk. I mean, and so I hope, and I suppose when we talked about this 2 weeks ago, right before the initial strike, I said I hope the president, I hope the Secretary of Defense and Kane have a plan, and I still want to assume that they do, because this was very obvious that this was going to be the next 2 or 3 steps. And at this point, when you play around with countries like Iran, who at this point don't have as much to lose as we do, they don't need strategy. They're just going to go and shoot out and try to take as many assets and try to block us and try to control the oil reserves of the world and try to tank the American economy. And so the president knew this, and this is the big risk of going into this conflict and into this potential war. The end is not in front of us because Iran is reacting. And if they react, we have to react. And so this is going to be something that the president's going to decide if he's ready to take a much bigger step into eliminating their capacity and their control of these oil reserves or not.
Yeah. Hogan, this is not a gotcha question or even a critical question. It's a question for you to educate the two-way community. How could we go to war, the United States go to war, without a comprehensive economic, military, intelligence, diplomatic plan to control this the first day? How does that happen? How do you plan a war when this is, Jaime said, this was, of course, Iran was going to do this. How does that happen inside the government? Did they not think about it? Did they not think it was important? How does that happen?
I take a little issue with the premise. I'm confused as to what part of that they're not controlled how.
Because they're scrambling right now to come up with a plan to mitigate the impact of Iran, at least temporarily, controlling the Strait of Hormuz. And there's no obvious plan in place to take it. The president going on Truth Social and saying don't sounds a little like Joe Biden to some ears.
Well, and again, I'm not on the inside anymore, so I don't necessarily know the intelligence to make a logical assessment or give you information other than to say, everybody has it's that old adage that Mike Tyson, everyone has a plan. In the boxing match till they get hit back, and then everything changes.
Yeah.
And to Jaime's point, Iran reacted. Okay, right. And we knew at least to some degree how they would react because they've done so before. And Jaime hit on a point there. I think, Mark, you understand. I know the two-way community does too. This mutually assured destruction concern of the past does not apply to Iran because their whole thing is they want to die for their cause. So that makes life less valuable to them. So us killing their military leaders, they're fine with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so well, hold on real quick.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
This Strait of Hormuz, which is so important, it appears as though the president does have people around the globe, other governments who are supporting our actions. What has to happen in order to control it, I think, is maybe what they're thinking about now. Because look, there's never just one plan. There are multiple plans, and you game those out. You do the war games internally in the Situation Room with your military leaders at the Pentagon, at the White House, to have what's going to happen here, right? And so I think what they're looking at, which one makes it go fast, which is the fastest, which one allows us to control the oil. Because remember, after the Iraq War, Trump said we should have taken the oil, right?
Yeah.
That definitely is on his mind as well. How do you prevent loss of American life too? And how do you keep America's involvement at a very, very minimal participation rate?
All right, we're going to move on. We're going to cover some stuff quickly. Three quick things. First of all, Jaime, there is a wolf in your apartment. I don't know if you know that, but just if you're listening to the audio version of the show, you may not know that Jaime's life is in danger because there is a wolf.
She's acting up.
Wolf looming behind him. There it is, man.
She's looking for a bubble cuddle.
Yeah. You got a bubble cuddle blanket you can throw that puppy?
Come on.
Yeah, come on over. All right, number two, we're gonna move to some other things real quick here. And I forget what number three is, but it'll come back to me. Putin. Steve Witkoff says, in effect, well, despite these reports that Russia is helping Iran with intelligence and targeting, we take the Russians at their word. It's not true. I think I'm characterizing what he said correctly. The U.S. is downplaying now. There have been multiple reports that, in fact, the Russians are helping. And this comes amidst negotiations with Russia and Ukraine that administration officials before the Iran conflict began were very bullish that there would be a deal. Putin is benefiting from this war because it's raising the price of oil, and he's able to sell his oil at greater prices. And the U.S. has been forced to take some of the sanctions off Russia to get access to the Russian oil. So the president did a call with Putin a couple days ago. Very little has been reported about what he said, but the assumption of my sources who don't have firsthand knowledge but understand the dynamics of the relationship is that the president said to Putin, stay out of this. But Hogan, what leverage does the United States have over Putin at this point to keep him from aiding Iran, if any?
Well, it depends on what we want to do with Ukraine. I mean, that's obviously one of the linchpins in that negotiation and that relationship. But listen, no one likes high oil prices, I understand. But when Russia invaded Ukraine, oil per barrel spiked to what, 148, 185? It was like 180 or something a barrel. It was like massive. This one, while it went up to 100, now back down to in the 80s. This whole argument over oil is fascinating to me because we are doing so much now on our domestic front to produce our own oil. The relationships and partnerships we have around the globe for countries now buying oil. I'm sorry
to interrupt, but focus on my question. What can the president say to Putin to say, stay out of it? And Putin says, yeah, whatever. Like, what could the president say to intimidate Putin or to cajole him or to appeal to his better angels?
What I said at the outset, I think there's a Ukrainian support lever.
But what does he say? I'll give you a better deal on Ukraine if you stay out of it?
No, I think he could say, I'm going to give Ukraine a hell of a lot more help than I already have.
Yeah. Jaime, how long can the White House deny that what seems to be true, which is that Russia's helping Iran?
Yeah, they've been denying it all this time, and look, I can't, and maybe Hogan can give me some insight on this. Why the president has so much, or has shown so much trust in Putin's word, one, and two, why he's been so limited in his criticism on Russia when they are in the center of conflicts that are obviously hurting America, obviously hurting our economy and our future. And when you marry this with Iran, and then you married with China and potentially North Korea on the other side, this is potentially a very dangerous relationship that we've got to break up as quickly as possible. And for some reason, the president just won't do that when it comes to Russia.
It would be spectacular if this episode of this show was where we solve the 10-year mystery of why Donald Trump talks so kindly about Putin. Whenever I ask Hogan this question, he always says the same three words: the P tape. That's all he ever says. Guys, what? Guys, is the China summit? It's supposed to be in 3 weeks. Is it going to happen if the war is still going on? Will the China summit happen? Will Donald Trump go to Beijing? The South China Post reports the summit's just going to be Beijing. He's not going to travel anywhere else in China. I don't know if that's true, but that's what they report. Jaime, will it happen if the war is still going on, or will it be canceled?
I think it still will happen. I mean, it'll be a lot to talk about. So I think he will want to go.
Hogan, will it happen even if the war is still going on?
I think so, because the only three groups that really supported America not going into Iran were Russia, China, and the Democrats.
Yeah. So people say that the break with Israel could come, the U.S. and Israel could come on regime change. The president, as was alluded to earlier, he also wants the oil. I don't think BIBI cares if we get the oil. The president wants the oil too. So that's another thing that he may not get if there's no Venezuela-like arrangement. Because I don't think we're going to take the oil by force. It would have to be a negotiation. Yeah. So here's my question again. We've talked about this before, but it's worth checking in on. Hogan, what is the day? Just make a guess of the day. And what is the issue over which the public disagreements with Israel, which are currently being kept under wraps? Witkoff now says he may go next week there. What's the day and the issue which the U.S.-Israeli relationship will start to be torn a bit? It's like a game of Clue. Say next Thursday over, nuclear bombing the nuclear facilities or whatever. What do you got?
I don't know.
All right, Jaime, you got to guess.
That's a very hypothetical. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's hypothetical, but I do think as we get closer, we talked about this a bit last week, closer to the midterms, and as this question of Israel and the relationship becomes a question and a point in the districts during the midterms, where Republican members have to answer: Are we close? Are we too close to Israel? Are we close enough? Et cetera, et cetera. So once those questions start happening on the ground organically, and look, and you can see the vast amount of American voters are still not extremely pro-Israel in this regard. However, there's a lot happening right now with Iran, and obviously there are a lot of concerns around the Muslim Brotherhood popping back up and sort of taking over that region. And so I don't know, but I do think that there's going to be a point over the next couple of months where it's going to be a little bit more fraught than it is right now.
Oh, I think it's going to come to a head much sooner, I think. Yeah, go ahead.
Possibly, but also remember, this doesn't happen in a vacuum. We've already had, now the media, as you know, the two forms of bias are what you cover and how you cover it.
Yeah.
I've heard little, if anything, and what I have heard has been inaccurate about the two two Islamic terrorist attacks on our own soil after this war started. They're not talking about that at all. My point is, if there's a rift with Israel and that comes to the fore and we litigate that, okay. But what happens in the meantime with some of these sleeper cells that Iran has in America, or more attack on other places? That could change things too.
I think next week there's going to be an open conflict over how long to continue the operation next week.
Well, Mark, this is also going to go into the conversation around DHS funding and the government.
Yes.
I mean, Hogan just made a really incredible point. We and look, I'm not gonna. You guys know I try to be a good Democrat, so I'm not going to admonish the Democrats for what they're doing right now. However, if we're talking about a full-fledged war, and we've already seen that there are a couple of sleeper cells here, the homeland has got to be secure as quickly as possible, and we've got to make sure that the new secretary is going to take this seriously, because at some point we're going to have to. This is going to come to our front door, and we're going to have to be ready for it.
Yeah, and if I'm the Republican Party. What I am pushing them to message is, and Jaime, this is where the messaging war begins, but I would be like, all right, first of all, let me get this straight. Democrats on purpose open the border. Then they turn around and let in tens of 20 million illegal aliens, including 700 Iranian nationalists. And third, they're now not funding the very agency designed to protect us from the threats they let in the country. Like I would completely lean in on that. And as more and more of these things happen from Iranian nationalists or from jihadists on our soil, that becomes, I think, a bigger problem for the Democrats and less of a problem for Republicans.
It's a pretty salient message, yeah.
Yeah. All right, guys, 2 more topics. We're going to throw some off the sled because I want to get to questions. Again, raise your hand if you want to get in on the conversation. Trump versus Thune. John Thune has said, okay, you want to vote on the Save America Act, which is doomed because we don't have the votes to break a filibuster? Sure, we'll give you a show vote, and then you'll see we don't have the votes, and then maybe we can move on. And it takes a lot to piss off John Thune, but as a student of John Thune from back when he was a House member, I think he's pretty pissed about all this. Okay, so let's assume that happens. Hogan, don't dissent. It's hypothetical if you don't believe it. Thune does a vote, tries to get it passed, if it doesn't pass. Then what happens, Haima? The president give up? Does he blame John Thune? Does he threaten to primary every Republican who votes no? What happens after it fails?
Maybe a combination of the above. But look, you can say what you want to say about John Thune, but he has played this game masterfully over the past few decades, and he's incredibly skilled legislator, and he understands this body more than most, with the exception of old school McConnell. And so I think John Thune is already starting to make his plan for a post-Trump Senate. And I think these next couple votes and couple floor scuffles are going to be emblematic of how he's thinking about moving his caucus forward post-Trump.
Yes, except for this calculation that may be a miscalculation by our good leader in the U.S. Senate. He's playing for a post-Trump Senate. Don't pass the SAVE Act. You may have a post-Thune Senate as well, because this is a huge issue for our side of the aisle. And Thune, I think, to his credit, is going, all right, here's the deal. Mr. President, you've got a lot of problems in the Senate. I'm going to run this SAVE Act to show you they're not named John Thune.
Yeah.
It's other people who are the problem here.
Here's one of my biggest complaints about reporters on Capitol Hill. I've not seen, and I've read a lot about it, and I've not had time to do it myself, but I don't cover Capitol Hill full time. Who are the votes they can't get? Why isn't anybody writing a story about who are the votes they can't get? When John Thune says we don't have the votes, who are they? Hogan, do you know who they are?
Yeah, there was a list of them today I actually saw on Twitter that someone had put out.
Murkowski, Collins, McConnell, Tillis.
But of the 25 Republican senators, 47% GOP conference, 22 of them are from safe red states.
Yeah.
So 9 are from where states Trump won by more than 30 points.
But when Thune says I don't have the votes, whose votes can he get?
It's not the vote for the SAVE Act, though. It's the vote to get rid of the vote on the SAVE Act.
I understand. Right. I understand. But who's that?
I don't know. I just want everyone to get the.
Okay.
He's also not going to whip those votes either. So I think that's the.
Yes.
I think that's
the dirty little secret. Yeah. Yes.
But did you see Cornyn? Did you see Cornyn's op-ed in the Post?
Yes. Let's talk about John Cornyn.
That was quite interesting.
Please.
Do you guys think Donald Trump's going to endorse John Cornyn, Haima?
I think so. And I also had to caveat this by saying, Mark, a couple of weeks ago, I said that Tallarico was going to win. You did not agree with me.
You did.
And I was right on that ground game about Crockett.
You were right, and Kamala Harris and I were wrong.
Yeah.
Hogan, is John Cornyn going to get the endorsement of the president?
Perhaps, because of this move. Simply because of this move on the SAVE Act, and
I think he has to.
His argument in that op-ed was quite fascinating. I was on another show with our good friend Rick Santorum this morning, who was vehemently opposed to doing anything to subvert the filibuster, to get rid of the filibuster, which I get. I get the arguments for both sides here, but Cornyn's flip on that is actually fairly large, because he also called on his colleagues to join him with getting rid of it if need be. Then that precipitates the story you were just talking about, Mark, which is, who are the colleagues that need to flip on the filibuster?
Yeah. So until go ahead, Emma.
Well, I'm saying, if I were a Republican, I would not flip the filibuster at this point, with the Senate being up for contention, and the I think best case scenario for Republicans as it stands is 49-51 or 50-50. And if you slide one more, then the Democrats are going to use that to their advantage, and that's what Thune has been saying. I think that is a salient message. The Democrats, if the Republicans get rid of the filibuster, the Democrats are prepared to take advantage of that if they take over the Senate.
Yeah, as you know, as you know, a lot of Republicans say Democrats will do it anyway. So
they're going
well.
to. Yes, 100%.
They
vacillate on that. I don't know.
100%.
Anyway, until and unless the president endorses and gets Paxton out of the race, till that happens, unless that happens, we got a primary. We got a runoff, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
And cards are being played in the runoff. Money's being raised and ads are being run. Here's a pretty tough ad from John Cornyn against his Republican opponent, Mr. Paxton. Play that, please.
What do a burner phone, a $1,000 Mont Blanc pen, and this cash machine have in common? They are symbols of Ken Paxton's depravity. Paxton used the burner phone and an alias to hide his affair from the mother of his children. Now his wife's divorcing him on biblical grounds.
Thou shalt not commit adultery.
A Mont Blanc pen stolen from another lawyer because once a crook, always a crook.
Thou shalt not steal.
And while in office, Crooked Ken increased his net worth by up to 7,000%, then used that fortune to buy 10 properties and claimed 3 of them as his principal residence to get cheaper mortgage rates.
Thou shalt not bear false witness.
Judgment Day comes for all of us eventually. This year, in Texas, Ken Paxton faces the voters.
Defeat the crook.
I'm John Cornyn, and I approve this message. Join my team and give today.
Now, that's a devastating ad under normal circumstances. I don't read the chat, but I glanced at it. Professor Kenny, you're right. It's a great ad. But here's what I don't get. Voters in the primary, the first round, they knew all this stuff. There were already ads about all this stuff. There was tons of news coverage. So how does Cornyn think he's going to win the primary, the runoff on this stuff? I don't understand that. Educate me, gentlemen. Like, what's the point of doing more advertising on something? Maybe in the general election, that message would be good. But you know, Paxton tied Cornyn in the first round. What am I missing?
You got to continue to. I mean, look, Cornyn has put out some incredible ads over the last few weeks, and this is, I think my favorite one was the one that came out right before the primary, which had a lot of the same messaging as this one. But look, you got to continue the drum beat, and so he's running a race. You know, he called him Crooked Paxton, a Crooked Ken. I think that was that was a direct correlation to Crooked Hillary, and maybe the president's going to see that and say, oh, this is great messaging. But it was a really well done ad. If I were a Republican, what I would be concerned about is if Paxton does emerge as the nominee and gets into the general election, Cornyn is planting an amazing amount of seeds to grow beautiful trees of opposition on. And all we have to do is if I was Tallarico, paste these same ads that Cornyn is putting out with his wife and his Bible, and say the same exact thing and just hammer it home. And so I think in some ways Cornyn is not necessarily damaging Paxton, because we know a lot of these things are baked in, but he is reinforcing the narrative. It was sort of like Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. Bernie Sanders said a lot of things about Hillary Clinton that most people already assumed or thought, but Bernie Sanders brought it to the forefront. And when Hillary got into the general election, Donald Trump just took all of Bernie Sanders' messaging and copied and pasted and used it against Hillary in a salient way. And I think Tallarico is skilled enough to do something similar.
I think, well, I don't know if Tallarico is skilled enough. We've yet to see him actually in the pressure cooker. But I will say from the Republican side, you know, you really lose elections when you surprise the electorate. Everyone knew Clinton was a dirtbag. So stuff came out about Clinton, who cares? Read my lips, no new taxes. And then George H.W. Bush raises taxes. That surprised people. Yeah. This is not a surprise about Paxton. However, interestingly enough, that electorate's fairly divided in Texas because Cornyn has all the Bushies, has all of that old guard conservatism. The new guard, the MAGA folks, are so fired up about Paxton. If Cornyn were the nominee, I'm not certain the Paxton Republicans would turn out and vote for Cornyn. And vice versa. I don't know, the Cornyn people would be too excited about Paxton based on the nastiness of this election. And we talk about all the time, remember the Willie Horton ad that was so devastating back in the day was brought up in the Democrat primary. It was used flawlessly, I think by Reagan, I guess. Was it Reagan or HW?
But HW.
It
actually was.
But let me say one thing about this ad. Okay, I get it to some degree. First of all, I don't think anyone knows what a burner phone is unless you follow NCAA recruiting.
I think people
we
know.
We all know what a burner phone is.
And you probably have a
on
couple,
this call,
Hogan.
I don't know that most Americans what a burner phone is.
All right, put in the chat, folks. Yes, just put in the word
here's the second
yes
part.
or put in the chat yes or no. Put in if people know what a burner phone is. Put in yes.
You could have said a private phone.
Yes.
Of course, this community is so knowledgeable.
Well, a very high percentage of the two-way community. And also a lot of them run drugs, so they've all got.
But also the voice of God piece I found very cheesy.
Yeah, I didn't like. I think
that's very cheesy.
I gotta find out
who almost makes the ad that was supposed to be serious.
Yeah, goofy. I agree. And the fact that I did that voiceover shouldn't bother.
Well, it's good money if you can keep it up, Mark.
As a Democrat, I'm having a hard time with this race on the Republican side, obviously, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm hoping for John Cornyn to emerge as the nominee, even though I think we can beat Paxton. I'm like, oh man, I think you guys are doing poor John Cornyn so poorly. Yeah.
I just want to see if the president endorses, because obviously MAGA has gotten to him and he's worried about doing it.
I don't think he has a choice but to endorse him. And you look at all the things that are happening right now, and I mean,
but he should do it now. He should do it now.
Cooper ran a beautiful campaign in North Carolina for the primary and got out with an incredible amount of votes. And so North Carolina is already leaning blue. And you look at these other states, and Ruben Gallego just endorsed Grant Prattner. And so there's a lot happening. And I think the president is going to be smart about this, and he's got to help Cornyn get over the finish line.
But the sooner he does, the better, to go to the point Hogan made, which is you're just going to be pissing off all the MAGA people seeing these negative ads against their guy. Just get him out, have them both endorse Cornyn, get him out, give him whatever he needs, and start running against Talarico.
Has Wesley Hunt endorsed yet?
No, not to my knowledge.
But didn't Paxton say he'd get out if Cornyn supported the SAVE Act?
I don't know if he said it was just Paxton, just Cornyn supporting it. I thought he said it had to pass. I think he said it had to pass.
I thought he said something like that. Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. Quick word from a sponsor. To end your questions, please raise your hand if you want to get in the conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, in addition to being drug runners, most of you all like money. That's part of why you sell drugs so frequently to around the world. And here's a chance to get some more money. Our friends at the free Upside app want to give you a free month. Download on your phone. You use it to purchase three things we all buy: gas at gas stations, food at restaurants, and stuff at the grocery store. Free cash back, doesn't interfere at all with whatever you get, benefits you get on your card. This is not points that you earn. This is not some membership deal. This is just free cash back. Go now to your phone, download the Upside app. The app is free. Using it's free. And if you want an additional 25 cents off each gallon of gas on your first tank fill up, use the promo code MARK, and you'll get 25 cents back on each gallon of gas. This app just gives you cash back. Groceries, dining, and gas. Use it over 100,000 locations around the country. You just open the app, claim an offer, pay with your card like normal, and you get paid. That is it. Upside's given back over $1 billion to folks around the country. To find out how much you could earn, download the free Upside app and use the promo code MARK to get that extra 25 cents back. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the part of the show that Jaime likes best and terrifies Hogan. Take questions from the community. Here we go. Greg, welcome in.
Des Moines, Iowa. I want to know what your favorite food on a stick is, Mark.
Pork chop on a stick. Thank you for asking. Just pure protein. No, nothing breaded. Just the pork chop on the stick.
How about you, Jaime?
I love the pork chop, but I'm old school, so I'm just like a corn dog. I eat as many corn dogs as possible.
Yeah, Greg, how about you?
Oh boy, I tried cheese on a stick one time. That was a little too much for me.
That was too much.
Yeah.
I do like the fried Oreos, I have to say, but they're not technically on a stick.
I have to say, Greg, if you know, the butter cow is still in DC right now, just so you know.
Oh wow, that's amazing. Yeah. I'll be perfectly honest with you. This Iowan can take the fair every few years, but I don't necessarily go every year, but it is a wonderful place.
I love the fair. We're gonna do a whole episode about the fair, Jaime, and I'm gonna regale you with some of my stories. Greg, what's on your mind for the gentleman?
Well, I just have a big picture question. I'm a Gen Xer, the generation that nobody cares about, and I'm a little curious. It seems everybody talks about the Iraq War, but it seems like everybody's memories only go back to 2003, not 2001. And I understand the Iraq war, we got in a slog. Many people died, cost a lot of money. We didn't really accomplish much. I get that. I'm not denying that. But there was also 9/11, and that has to be part of our entire foreign policy awareness as well. So how do you see that fitting into Iran and people's views on that and everything, and generational gap on that?
Great question. Haima.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great. I think you're right. And I think people are having a hard time with this. I was at Arlington National Cemetery yesterday for a lovely event on service dogs, and a number of veterans, both of the Iraq and Afghanistan war, spoke, and you can almost see them reliving these instances because we're in the middle of a new war right now. So I think that's one. So I think there's a visceral, emotional reaction that people, both veterans and just regular Americans, are having. That's just one. But two, I think you're right, and I think Hogan made a point earlier about making sure that we protect this homeland. And so there are two things. There's one, there's eliminating the threat over in the Middle East, and then making sure that they can't bring this to our front doors. And that's what people are trying to deal with right now. What's the most important thing we should be having our hearts on? Is it eliminating the threat over in Iran, or is it making sure that these individuals do not come anywhere near us? And I think that's the confusion. I think that's what people, are can't really contend with. One, and then lastly, and Hogan always says this, it's the politics of it all. The Democrats are going to say one thing to make you feel a certain kind of way, and so that's good. And so intentionally, both parties are playing ping pong with the emotional aspect of this war, and I think that's why there's been so much confusion and so much lack of historical understanding.
Brilliant answer, Hogan. Top that if you can.
I can't, but I'll give you my answer, Greg. And it's an interesting question because I don't think people remember that at all. Look at what they just did in New York with who they elected as the mayor, for heaven's sakes. Look at what he's doing. No one's fighting back on that. No one has the historical rep. That's not even in Iowa, by the way. That's not Des Moines. That's not Charleston, South Carolina. It's not, El Dorado, Arkansas. That happened in New York, and it's like they don't care. So I wish they had a better understanding of the context of what got us to this point. But Republicans will say this is good because, Democrats will say this is bad because. None of that matters, in my opinion, unless we win. If we win and people view it as a win, then it's a great idea. Yep. If something happens and we lose more life and we lose more assets and it becomes a problem, then it's a horrible idea. The outcome, I think, it's like you're Des Moines. Are you a Hawkeye fan or a
Well, I'm originally from Ohio, so I'm a Buckeye fan.
Okay, Buckeye fan. Okay,
you should have kept that to yourself.
The last time when Ohio State runs a trick play,
Ohio State,
everyone in real time of the trick play is like, no, and then it works, and they're like, that's the most brilliant call ever. It doesn't work, and everyone goes, that's the stupidest coach I've ever seen. Why would you run that there? Get him out, right? The outcome matters more to a lot of people, and that's just a fact. But real quick, fun note, fair. I didn't get asked this, Mark. Bad hosting duties there.
Yeah.
I was with Mike Huckabee at the Iowa State Fair, and I'm kind of a health nut, and I won't eat that for the most part. Some staff offered me $100 to eat a corn dog, and I took the $100 and ate the corn dog. So I know the corn dogs are good. I'm not eating anything.
Greg, thank you. Question. I could tell you, I have lots that are actually consequential, like when Trump was there, and I've been there with John McCain, the Clintons, a bunch of candidates, but I was there once with Evan Bayh, and senator from Indiana, and nobody knew who he was. So we're walking around, and there's press, but there were way more press than voters wanted to talk to him. And so finally, one of the Iowans said to me, "Who's that guy? Who is he?" I said, "It's actor Kevin Kline from A Fish Called Wanda." And then word spread around the fair that actor Kevin Kline was there, and then he was mobbed. People got photos for him. So I inadvertently helped out the Bayh campaign by making people think they were getting a photo with actor Kevin Kline.
There is a documentary called Caucus, just the name of Caucus, by a guy named AJ Schnack, and I was part of this documentary. This isn't a plug.
A little bit.
It beautifully captures the awkwardness of campaigning. So much of it centers around Iowa, campaigning through Iowa and the fair. It is a fascinating watch. It won a lot of awards, but the movie's Caucus.
Yes. Yeah. Haima, are we going to be doing a morning meeting from the fair?
I hope so.
I said that live from the main stage.
I know. I was just trying to confirm it.
Let's do it.
Chad, welcome in. Thank you for being here. You ever been to the Iowa State Fair?
I haven't. I'm from the great state of Texas, and we have a pretty good fair here in Dallas.
Yeah,
The nation state.
As we say in Midland, your fair is Midland.
Ah, all right. That's okay. I love it.
Yeah, it's the Texas Fair is top 10.
They are the best fried Oreos of any state fair I've been to. You got to admit that.
Texas or Iowa?
Yeah.
Texas.
No, Texas.
Off message.
Yeah. Chad, what's on your mind, sir?
So I know this is a forward-looking show, and so I'm just trying to think about. I'm thinking ahead to the midterms, and I remember. Well, as I think ahead, I remember the red wave that was supposed to come back in the midterms with Joe Biden, and it was all predicted, and it was all said and done, right? Everybody knew it was going to happen, and then it didn't. And I'm just wondering what are the chances that that's kind of what we have here too, that it's kind of all baked in, that the electorate kind of knows what they know and what they like. And maybe there's going to be a bit of a blue tilt, but maybe it's not as bad as everybody thinks. And as soon as the Trump campaign starts spending that money and he gets out there more and more like he does, because there's a lot of things I don't like about him, but campaigning is a pretty big gift he has. During the election, when the McDonald's story happened, when the garbage truck, all these things start happening, he goes on all these podcasts. It changes things because he has a way of connecting with people and does it fire up the base. I don't think that the base has lost interest in him at all, like some people want to say. So I don't know. I'm just thinking, I don't know. Is there a chance that we're running into the same thing that, it was going to be this big red wave, but then it all kind of comes crashing down, where this is supposed to be a blue wave and it's really not? Or am I just wishful thinking?
Great question, Chad. Hogan.
I'm hoping you're correct, Chad. I'll be honest. Data tells me it's going to be difficult. My argument, though, is to the Republicans, they need to start that messaging and start those conversations now. Mm-hmm. One of the things Democrats, I think, do so beautifully that Republicans do. This is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in season, out of season. Republicans after the summer are like, hey, we should start thinking about turnout and getting an election ready, and maybe we should do some door knocking. All of that stuff is baked by that time, and Democrats have already seeded that ground very well. And so I'm a little concerned from the turnout apparatus, because as we talked about in the show, no one turns out votes better than Donald Trump, just naturally. You don't even have to have a turnout mechanism. He just does it, but he does it on the Republican and Democrat side. And if he's not on the ticket, Democrats still run on Donald Trump and still get out their vote because of Donald Trump, and Republicans tend to withdraw a little bit. That's my concern, is turnout.
Yeah. I mean, and Hogan, just to correct the record, my that is not my religion. I have my own religion that deals with God, not politics. So let's not continue that messaging. There are good Democrats who are good Christians, and Muslims and Jews and whatever. But but Chad, I think this is a really good question. I've lost a lot of sleep over this, because I obviously hope that the blue wave does come. But I have been very, 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 very judicious in the way I'm thinking about these districts, and there are about 24, 25 that are up for consideration right now. A lot of those are lean red or lean blue, and so it's hard to kind of find. There's never going to be a big wave ever again until gerrymandering allows for it. So right now, the best case scenario for Democrats is they get sort of a plus 10, plus 15, which is very hard to get. So that's one. Two, to Hogan kind of subtly made the point, but your point self, and he's very good at getting elected himself. That doesn't always translate very well to electing other Republicans, particularly in primaries and particularly in midterms. And so, yes, I think you're right. The vast majority of the MAGA base has not grown tired or malaised over Donald Trump as it stands, but that does not mean that they're going to go ahead and vote for a random Republican who they do not know in their district because Donald Trump told them to, when there may be a good independent or a good Democrat who they've known for 30, 40, 50 years. And so it all goes down to the nuance of the districts and the type of candidate that the Republicans and Democrats have. Yeah. If the Democrats have a candidate that is more connected to the community and the Republicans present just a MAGA ideologue, then that's going to be a little bit more difficult to get over the hump. And so that's sort of the way we're all looking at it. And so, no, it's not going to be a grand blue wave, but as it stands, Democrats do have an advantage when you look at district by district.
At the same time, I've never seen a candidate's endorsement matter more than Donald Trump. And by the way,
that's
that
fair.
means on the Democrat side too. But I've never seen a candidate clear a field faster when he endorses a person than Donald Trump does.
And I think what we've also seen, and Mark's talked about this a lot, we've seen such high turnout on the Democratic side. Let me look at your state of Texas. How many Democrats went out and voted in that primary last week? And that is historic. That's happening in Louisiana, Indiana, Arkansas, Georgia, all over. And so those indicators do give some proof that Republicans are going to have a little bit more suppressed vote, while Democrats have a little bit more enthusiasm. And that combination could lead for Democrats win.
Chad, if you could give the president one piece of advice about Iran, what would it be? Say again?
You started and out.
You're breaking up.
We'll never know what Chad's advice was because his mic stopped working. Chad, thank you. Not sure why that happened. Gentlemen, curious about, try to end up most of the shows this way these days. What are you looking for today in Iran? Are you focused on oil prices, gas prices? You focused on Strait? What are you focused on? President's remarks. Jaime, you first.
I'm focused on this Strait. And I'm also focusing on the continued reaction from Iran. And I think at some point we're going to have to, the president's going to have to decide what he said last week, total elimination. What does that mean? And I think he's going to have to decide over the next couple of days if we continue to allow Iran to react in the way they've reacted, or do we get a little bit more aggressive?
Hogan.
You asked just about Iran, or did you say in general?
No, just about Iran. What are you looking for?
I'm looking for who controls the island and also the Strait. I think that determines so much. The markets want and thrive on certainty. They don't have it in these instances, although still way better off than we were because we're producing our own oil and have better agreements than we ever had in the past, thanks to Donald Trump. I'm still concerned about the Strait and the island. And if we can get those two things figured out. And then third, I think part and parcel to what Jaime said, what are we doing to eliminate the rest of those threats that we deem problematic for the region and for our homeland? Are we doing that to get those ones running down the tunnels, as the Twitter author stated earlier?
Yeah, very well.
And one last, and China.
Yes, sir.
We got to make sure that we keep an eye on China and how they continue to react to all of this.
You guys said all the stuff I was going to say, so I'll yield back the balance of my time, except to say Citizen McCain is back at noon. Megan's back pretty soon, but not this episode. Miranda welcomes two of our favorites, Yemisi Bawali and Ryan Gerdusky. That's at noon on Two-Way. If you've never watched the show, recommend it to you. While Megan's away, Miranda has you covered. Two-Way tonight, 5 o'clock, full coverage of the latest on Iran and the president's trip to Ohio and Kentucky. And on this program tomorrow, sadly, we lose Hogan and Jaime. But if you have to do without Hogan and Jaime, ladies and gentlemen, what better way to try to make it through the morning than Larry O'Connor and Melissa DeRosa? They will be here tomorrow. I'm moving over right now to SiriusXM, rolling to the second hour of the morning meeting. You can call me there if you'd like. To be part of the conversation. And gentlemen, I couldn't be more pleased to have you here. Love having you on the program. And Jaime will start a subcommittee to work on planning the state fair. I've got all sorts of ideas, and including maybe we get some candidates, some prospective presidential candidates to stop by.
Well, let's start pooling our money so we can get Hogan to eat as much junk as we can find.
I assume Hogan gets the VIP discount.
Oh, we'll make sure he does.
When people see Hogan, they'll be like, free corn dogs, Mr. Gidley, free corn dogs. Thank you all for being part of the Two-Way community. Again, I'll see you at 5 o'clock tonight on the morning meeting in 23 hours right back here. Gentlemen, thank you. Everybody, thank you. Have a great day. See you on Sirius XM 111 in moments.
Happy Tuesday.